Did you know that some African empires were older than many European nations? We often hear about the impact of colonialism, but what about the rich and complex history that existed long before? Today, we journey through time to explore key moments in African history, revealing forgotten kingdoms and the lasting impact of pivotal events. Our story begins with the rise of the Mali Empire. Around 1235 CE, Sundiata Keita, a leader of the Keita clan, triumphed over Samaro Kante at the Battle of Karina. This victory marked the dawn of the Mali Empire, a realm that would become a beacon of Islamic scholarship and trade. Cities like Timbuktu and Djenné flourished, becoming centers of learning and commerce. The Great Mosque of Djenné stands as a testament to this era, a magnificent structure built from sun-baked earth, a major medieval learning center in Western Africa. Simultaneously, far to the east and south, the Bantu expansion was unfolding. Between the 7th and 11th centuries, Bantu-speaking peoples migrated southward, influencing the languages, cultures, and demographics of vast swaths of sub-Saharan Africa. This expansion, coupled with the spread of Islam in the north and west, laid the foundation for new state formations and long-distance trade networks. Centuries later, the world's attention turned to Egypt. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte led a French invasion of Egypt, seeking to disrupt British trade routes to India. Though the French occupation was ultimately short-lived, ending in 1801 with the intervention of British and Ottoman forces, it ignited a fierce rivalry between England and France, setting the stage for future colonial ambitions. Meanwhile, on the island of Madagascar, Queen Ranavalona I ruled with an iron fist during the 19th century. Her reign was marked by a fierce determination to preserve traditional Malagasy culture, leading to the persecution of Christians. It is estimated that approximately 150,000 Christians were killed during her reign, a tragic chapter in the island's history. The late 19th century saw a dramatic shift in the relationship between Europe and Africa. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where 14 European powers carved up the continent among themselves, with little regard for existing kingdoms or ethnic boundaries. By 1914, nearly all of Africa was under European control, with only Ethiopia and Liberia remaining independent. This scramble for Africa had devastating consequences, laying the groundwork for future conflicts and instability. In South Africa, the Second Anglo-Boer War raged from 1899 to 1902. This brutal conflict, fought between the British Empire and the Boer republics, was one of the most destructive modern conflicts in the region. The war exposed the deep-seated tensions between the British and the Afrikaners, and its legacy continues to shape South African society today. World War I drew Africa further into the global arena. European powers conscripted large numbers of colonial soldiers, many of whom fought on European battlefields. The experiences of these soldiers, coupled with the war's disruption of colonial economies, fueled the rise of independence movements across the continent. The 1935 Italian invasion of Ethiopia marked the end of the initial scramble for Africa phase, and foreshadowed the start of World War II. The invasion was met with international condemnation, but ultimately, Ethiopia fell under Italian control for several years. The post-war era brought a wave of change. In 1957, Ghana became the first sub-Saharan nation to gain independence from Britain. Led by Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's independence served as an inspiration to other African nations struggling for self-determination. 1960 became known as the Year of Africa, with 17 countries gaining independence, including Mali, Senegal, Madagascar, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. This marked a turning point in the continent's history, as African nations began to assert their sovereignty. The Algerian War of Independence, which began in 1954, was one of the most brutal and protracted struggles for freedom. Algerians fought fiercely against French colonial rule, and after 8 years of war, Algeria finally gained its independence in 1962. The war had a profound impact on both Algeria and France, and it served as a catalyst for other independence movements. The transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history, had a devastating impact on Africa. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, over 11 million Africans were forcibly transported to the Americas and the Caribbean. This forced migration disrupted societies, fueled conflicts, and left a lasting scar on the continent. But Africa's history is not solely defined by colonialism and slavery. Long before European contact, powerful kingdoms and empires flourished. In Nubia, the kingdoms of Makuria and Alodia defended the Coptic Patriarch of Alexandria against Muslim Egypt. These Christian kingdoms formed a dynastic union, resisting external pressures for centuries. However, by the 16th century, they succumbed to Mamluk aggression, plague, and Bedouin migrations, leading to the rise of the Fund Sultanate in Sudan. Around Lake Chad, the kingdom of Kanem-Bornu faced a different challenge. Climate change led to the drying of Lake Chad, sparking conflicts with neighboring groups. The Bilala eventually captured the capital, forcing the Kanembu leaders to relocate to Bornu in modern Chad and Nigeria. In the Horn of Africa, the Zagwe dynasty, a Christian kingdom, contested hegemony with Muslim Shua and traditionalist Damat. The Solomonic dynasty overthrew the Zagwe around 1270, while the Algerian Sultanate ruled the southern Somali coast until its disintegration. Oromo invasions further weakened Ethiopia and contributed to the collapse of the Adal Sultanate. In Darfur and eastern Chad, the sultanates of Bagirmi, Wadai, and Darfur emerged after the decline of the Deju and Tunjur kingdoms. These sultanates engaged in frequent slave raids southward, contributing to the complex web of power and conflict in the region. To counter Eurocentric narratives, UNESCO launched the General History of Africa project in 1964. This ambitious project, involving over 550 experts, aimed to reframe history from African viewpoints, highlighting the pre-colonial achievements and resilience of African societies. The impact of these historical events continues to be felt in modern Africa. Arbitrary colonial borders, drawn without regard for ethnic or cultural boundaries, have fueled conflicts like the Rwandan genocide and the Boko Haram insurgency. The independence wave of the 1960s brought political freedom, but neo-colonial economics continue to link African economies to global powers, often perpetuating inequalities. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is evident in the African diaspora, whose contributions to global culture and politics are immeasurable. However, it's important to acknowledge the complexities of this history. African kingdoms like Ashanti, Dahomey, and Odo participated in the slave trade, supplying captives for profit. This internal complicity is a difficult but necessary part of understanding the full picture. Colonial violence, often minimized in official accounts, resulted in countless deaths and untold suffering. The use of chemical weapons by the Italian regime in Ethiopia is just one example of the atrocities that were often suppressed. Even seemingly positive developments, such as the Bantu Expansion, involved displacements and wars, highlighting the complexities of historical change. Understanding these complexities is essential for building a more just and equitable future. By confronting the past, we can learn from our mistakes and work towards a better tomorrow. Africa's story is a story of resilience, innovation, and resistance. It's a story that deserves to be told, in all its complexity and nuance. The story continues to unfold, shaped by the echoes of the past and the hopes for the future.